Hello everybody, welcome back to the show.
And welcome back again with the new amazing 2023 ahead. And I'm very happy to have you again, Dr. Shashi.
Fantastic, man. It's nice to always have new topics coming back again, and I think it's been a while since we moved away from the show, and so the new show is basically renewed, new energy, and hopefully into the new year we'll be doing more interesting topics. So today, even in fact, our first topic of the year is going to be something which is very interesting. And I think Maury here is going to dive into that.
We chose this topic, which is very, very important. And we're going to talk about dopamine. So I will start with the first question. So, Dr. Shashi, what is dopamine and what's the role of dopamine in our body?
Okay, now dopamine is a neurotransmitter. This word might be something which is like, what the hell is this? So, just to make it more simpler, it's something which is produced in your brainstem. There's a diagram which is going to be up here. So, the diagram you'll be able to see where it's produced. So, it's in these blue spots here, you can see. So, these two blue spots is where dopamine is produced, and it's synthesized throughout the brain and also by your kidney as well. So, that's how important the kidney is, especially the adrenal glands, where cortisol is also produced, your stress hormone. So, but it's a different layer. To make it simple, it's synthesized in brain and kidney, and it's sent throughout your nervous system. That means it's something which sends signal from one neuron, which is your nerve cell, to another nerve cell. That means it's trying to communicate with each other. So one of the ways that they communicate is by neurotransmitters. And what type of neurotransmitter? This is a catecholamine. So 80%. So the other catecholamines are I think you've heard of this, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and this dopamine is basically something which actually has an 80% stake, I would say, in daily function of the brain and all those. So it's actually very, very important. It's super important. All right. And what is the role? As I said, it's to communicate from one neuron to another. But in a finer detail, how is it going to communicate? What is it going to tell? That's the most important thing that you want to know. So it's either what you call this motivational. We know. So, but from Hollywood and other movies, and like from the pop media, we know that we think that dopamine is something which is which is addictive, or it gives you pleasure and all those. It's not entirely true. It's actually motivational. As I said, it's something which gives you, like Pavlov's experiment with the dogs. When they ring the bell, the dog starts salivating. So it's something which is associated with motivation, like something which happens to motivate you to do something. So it could be extrinsic and intrinsic. This is a bit more fancy. To make it simple, it's actually motivational, as I said. Intrinsic as in, like, just say you are stuck in a desert and you don't know where to go. It's survival mode, and then you're digging and then you find water. Like, I know you don't have food, you don't have enough water, and you're tired, but you're digging with your whatever energy that you have, and you find water. So you feel like it's worth. Yeah, it's like, wow, at that point, water is your dopamine surge. You find water, it's like, whoa, surge of dopamine. Or whatever effort that you put is going to give you a surge in that. So that's actually something which is survival. That means, as far as what I can give you another example is like bee stings you. But what you can do is, like, you try to find ways not to get stung by the bee. So the final product you get is honey, which is highly nutritional. It's something which is so good for your body. And what is your motivation to get it? Because of the nutritional benefit that it gives you. You try to find ways to get this honey in a more safe way, not to get stung or minimally stung. Even if you get stung, it's minimal, but you still get the honey, which is the nutritional part. So that is also what actually drove humanity. So dopamine, as I said, 80%. So can you imagine? It's not something which is only towards reward, which is just like something simple. It's something even for survival, water, sex, food. All this could
discipline,
be
consistency.
Yes.
Oh, wow, very interesting, Dr. Sashi. So I got the second question that I want to ask you is, how can we understand then if we have a high level or low level of dopamine, and is a high level of dopamine in the body could be dangerous in a way, or?
No, so the thing is, as I said, it's basically something which is a neurotransmitter. So your body produces it in higher levels when there is stimulation. So it is at the end of these axons, and they call it at the end of this neural fibers, that it jumps over. So what do you call this? Neural transformation, information is transferred from one neuron to another through excitation. So it needs to overcome the action potential for it to create this and jump. So if there is too much, naturally you can't produce too much or too little. It only produces what you need. It's a catecholamine. But a few things like drugs and especially alcohol, drugs, nicotine and all this can cause an overstimulation or overexcitation of this, and it can produce more. So what you can actually feel is things like anxiety, you can feel sleeplessness, you can feel like, like you're restless and all those. These are where your dopamine production is either surged or impaired. It's not properly working fine. Now, the dopamine pathway in the brain, there's 4. I don't want to bore you with all the too sciencey details, but these 4 pathways determines, even people who have restless leg, or people who are having Parkinson's, where there is actually a defect in the dopamine pathway in one of the pathways. So these things, when there's a defect in the pathway, it can also cause you to not properly synthesize or use this dopamine. So the wrong usage or the improper usage of this dopamine is also another defect. Your body might be able to not even use it properly, depending on what the problem is. So, but then on a natural way, in a normal person, you won't overly produce what you don't need. Like the body always does, it produces what it needs perfectly well, without any stimulus. Like I say, motivational. As I was thinking of this as children, like what I used to get is school holidays. So if I complete a set of exam questions or papers or whatever, or if I finish my homework, whatever, my reward my parents would give me is I'll be able to go out and play for an hour or two. I'll be able to play the computer games or whatever that interests me. And that was something which is very, very needed. It is very needed. Nowadays, what happened is to us is we are not giving us, either we are giving ourselves too easy of a reward, or we are not rewarding ourselves, or we are not able to perceive when this reward is coming, or because it's constantly there. You don't feel the motivation because you don't see the dopamine effect on your body. You have to constantly give yourself some reward. So as an adult, you don't depend on your parents anymore to give you reward. So you set goals and you reward yourself with something. If I'm done with this, I'm doing this and I've done this, I've completed a set of whatever, and you want to go travel, or you want to buy something, or you want to do anything that actually gives you a bit of that surge and boost, have that. Always do that.
Oh, interesting. So to auto-motivate ourselves, we set a target, a goal,
and then give yourself a reward.
Reward
yourself. Footballers always do that. If you see during the half time or during the full time, if it's an extra time match when it's going on, have you seen footballers going to the pitch and then they drink water and then they spit it out? They don't drink it, but they drink, probably if they put it into their mouth, around 80% of it they spit it out, 20% they swallow. They drink only 20% of the water, and the rest of it they spit it out. It's basically, that's one way to trick your mind. This is something which I watched a long time ago, and I was like, wow. So you trick your mind that you're going to give water, spit it out, the water is gone, but you give 20%, so it drives the body to go an extra mile for the extra time. So that at the end of the day, like I said, water is a motivation. So you use that point to motivate your body to go and hit a higher target, so that you tell your body you're going to give it more water later. And when you give it, that's at the end of the match, you won, you lost, whatever, but you give your body the ability to push further, and you reward it with water later. Wow. So there's something that your body becomes used to. So you must get used to that whole system. We have been used to this system since we were children. Our parents always did it to us. Reward based motivation.
If you study, I'll buy you the bicycle.
Whatever. So we already have this. We just need to re-tap back into it. And I think nowadays we're not re-tapping enough of this.
Wow, very interesting about the example. I had no clue. I've seen other sports as well. In rugby they do that, but I didn't know there was.
There's also something called extrinsic motivation. You don't get anything out of it, but then you feel happy. Your favorite team wins, football, whatever. Your favorite team wins, you feel euphoric, and then you might reward yourself by I'm getting the next glass of beer, or I'm getting the next glass of wine, whatever it is, or water, anything. And it's not you, but you associate it with this sports team since you were a child, so you have a connection with it, even though you might not benefit anything from it, either monetarily, financially, nothing, but then the happiness that you get is something you associated with since you were a child, adult.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is extrinsic, so something like that, like winning a lottery. It might make you feel like, oh, you can't sleep and all this. It's because you're going to get it, and that can also be something which is converted to become intrinsic, because that money can be used for you. So it's news that you get about your winning that is going to cause you to upgrade your life or whatever it is, and it also can be used for the wrong way with most gambling companies. So they use that in a bad way.
Or politically wise, many parties, they promise things, some rewards,
Yes.
to get votes. So you can manipulate people through that.
You can manipulate through this whole system. As I said, we are chemical beings, so we can use this to their advantage, but you are the master of yourself. You can use this to your advantage.
Dear Dr. Shashi, so that's quite interesting. Let's assume I'm a person that have not much knowledge, either about my body or, but I want to understand if my dopamine levels are high or low. What is the basic way that I can understand if I got high levels in my body or low levels of dopamine?
Low levels of dopamine.
Very straightforward.
We'll go to the low levels first.
Okay.
You feel depressed. You feel like you need to go. You need to go to the gym. You want to go to the gym. And even that will actually cause you to actually not see significant difference in whatever that you're doing. You want to go and learn something, but you want to learn, but then it's like, oh, I need to, I have to. It's different. Like I want to is something different. So that itself is one cause of how your dopamine is going to surge up. So basically, you completed, as I said again, you want to complete a surge of, you want to feel the surge of dopamine. You need to motivate and reward yourself. The reward is what drives that motivation. So if you do not have an endpoint, if you do not have something which you like, I achieve this, I'll set this and I'll get this. Like for gym goers, their long-term motivation and their long-term reward is to see a better physique and better body and feel stronger and all those. Something that actually motivates them to continuously do it, but it takes a longer time. So it depends on what you're doing to get the reward. And for you to be able to perceive that that's the reward that you're getting. So that's one thing. And as I said, ADHD is another form where people are not able to perceive the dopamine function in the first place. And in schizophrenia, people who are having schizophrenia are not able to perceive dopamine at all, because their pathway, as I said, the 4 pathways in the brain, how dopamine is used in your body, has some defect in it. So this all will cause you to have poor dopamine function in the body, and most of the times you feel down, you feel depressed, you don't feel motivated, you don't feel like you want to do something, you feel heavy and all these kind of things. It even affects the way you speak, the way you talk, the way you interact with people. For men, you don't feel like, even as I said, there's the other thing, dopamine can also give trigger towards libido. So if you do not have this urge to oh, I don't want to go and talk to the lady, I don't want to talk to women, I just don't, I feel like I want to just go and hide. It could be because of trauma, it could be because of the dopamine function is not proper. All this could be telltale signs that your dopamine is the low side.
Just quickly, can dopamine level, low level, affect self-confidence?
Of course. So when you're depressed, your self-confidence is going to be on the lower side. So that is another sign that it could be, like a cycle. Now, when I say about this, they have made studies about dopamine levels which are high. Now, it's not again something which Hollywood shows us as something which is hedonistic, where you feel like, oh, dopamine surge, you feel so like, it's something which is rewarding, and so it's actually something which is motivational, as I said. So it's motivations, like you feel like, oh, I want to do this, I want to conquer this, I want to go to the next mountain, I want to climb this, I want to swim further. I want to learn music and I want to achieve this thing. You've got targets. So when you set targets, your dopamine levels are on a very good level. Absolutely. When you do not have targets and you're just doing it for whatever, what is your endpoint? What is motivating you? So then what happens after that? So all this will determine if your dopamine is going to be like up, down, which is normally up, down in a normal scale, or bigger ups and downs. So that will cause you like confusion around those. And also some people use use external motivations. Alcohol, what do you call this? Nicotine,
Stimulants,
external stimulants, which can give you a dopamine surge, but also later things that the substance itself can cause you, like alcohol. In lower doses, it's excitatory, it makes you excited and all those. But in higher doses and long-term exposure is something which is going to make you depressed. So in that way, your dopamine function itself is going to be diminished and depleted. So cigarettes and like even they tested on mice and cannabinoids and nicotine and all those. In the short term, it actually gives you a bit more of a excitation. But in the long run, it can cause like hyper excitation, anxiety. You feel sweaty. You feel like all this can happen.
Look, fantastic, Shashi. Like organically, we shift already to the third question, which is addiction. And actually, the relationship between dopamine and addiction. We would like to underline that addiction is not only addiction to drugs, cigarettes, substances. Could be sugar, binge eating, even sex. So
pornography,
which is that's another big topic we should dig together.
So as I said, you're absolutely right. It's not only substances, it's like behaviors and what we do that can also cause us to have rewarding, like increasing our dopamine levels, or we are used to doing that to search our dopamine levels. It could be the wrong things, it could be the right things. The right things are rewarding, the wrong things on the long run could be damaging.
To stay in the topic, because I've been doing some studies for my own, and addiction itself, we do not get addicted to a certain, let's say marijuana for example, but we get addicted to the feeling that substance.
Yes.
So in this case, how dopamine, what's the relationship between dopamine and the addiction? So how does it happen, and how can we avoid that?
Okay, so I think for marijuana itself, it's something which is a very huge and it's minimally understood because cannabinoids, they can affect in a different way. So I think it's best that we stick to something which is much more simpler to understand, like nicotine and alcohol.
Okay.
All right. So what happens is, as I said, in low doses, it's excitatory. So dopamine itself is something which is supposed to be an excitatory neurotransmitter. That means it kind of increases your heart rate. It kind of increases your perception, your concentration, everything. Dopamine is supposed to increase on all those. Now, when you are dependent on something which is external, alcohol or nicotine and all those, to surge this, as I said, this is going to give you a spike in your dopamine. You feel good. That's why people like every 1 or 2 hours they need that surge. They need that next phase that they have a cigarette. And what happens is they are addicted to nicotine, which gives them that surge of dopamine. And in the long run, what happens is it damages other functions and units of the body. If you are someone who's a chain, or you are, again, if it causes you an addiction towards the substance itself has other effects. Like for instance, nicotine is a vasoconstrictor. It kind of reduces the vessels, your blood vessels, and reduces the size of the blood vessels. And apart from the dopamine surge that it gives your brain because of the way you do it, the other effects is going to make it harder. Your lung capacity is going to reduce. Your blood vessel is going to diminish or decrease in its size, and that also depletes the amount of oxygen which goes to your brain and other body parts and all those. Well, that's the other effects of the nicotine in someone who's using long term, as compared to like someone who is not addicted, or who is taking it once in a while, or someone who's like a social smoker who's not addicted to it. Probably they can get the excitation just for that moment. So that will be something which is, I'm not encouraging people to do it, but then it's like, it's something which you are not addicted to. So that should be a problem. That should be okay. So they are not hooked on to it. They're not dependent on it. The most important thing is not to depend on any substance to give you happiness or whatever. So that is what people associate dopamine with. Oh, the drugs make you happy. The drugs basically have substances that give you that dopamine surge, and by themselves they can give you other effects. That chemical compound itself, it could be cocaine, it could be cannabinoid, it could be anything. They have other effects from their byproduct, but then your body kind of drives the dopamine surge from that. Even inside these components, when they tested it on mouse, when they injected cannabinoids, when they injected cocaine, opioids into them, they had a surge of this dopamine. So they actually affect the dopamine surge. But in the long run, as I said, the pathways in how this dopamine is used in your body can become damaged. and can become insensitive. So you probably need a higher dosage, higher and higher.
Well.
Yeah, and then you are now enslaved to this habit or substance.
And this, very well said. I mean, very interesting. You like triggering a lot of ideas for next topics. And this leads us on the very last question, which is how can we improve then our dopamine levels naturally in our body?
As I said, reward-based achievement. So you target achievements, set achievements. What do you want? It could be anything. I tell people, it shouldn't be. I always use the term because we are getting into the new year. And as I said,
the resolutions.
Yeah, resolutions. People said most of the times the easiest resolution and also the easiest for you to break is to go to the gym. And I've interviewed a few gym, owners. And for them, it's like January, February, amazing. The amount of subscription that people take and come into the gym is skyrocket high. But then the people who come to the gym, 50% or lesser. And the people who follow through after February is less than 5%. Can you imagine? So I always use that, but it could be anything. For me, one of the things that I want to do this year, or even I started off last year, but then I got, I didn't set a motivational point, or I didn't set something which I would reward myself. But this year I've already set my motivation point and my reward. And what I want to do is to overcome a few things. Swimming. I can't swim properly. In fact, like I'm not even a good swimmer. I'm afraid of the water at times. So I can swim to save myself, but it's not no proper technique. So I want to learn how to swim properly because swimming is an amazing exercise. It's a total body workout, and it's like something which uses all the muscles in your body safely without impact. So knowing all this, I want to achieve that. So that's my achievement. And the other thing that I want to also venture into slowly, but probably to progress next year, is music. Something that I am totally very...
Which instrument you want to play?
It's not about instruments first, actually to understand music by itself, the notes and how it sounds. Because I think for me to understand something, I need to get to the basics of it. What is the basic of every, musical instrument? Notes. And how they sound and what they actually are. I need to know how to decipher the music, the notes of the music. So once I get to the basic, for me it's easier to understand music by itself. So because I am very curious about this and I always wanted, and I think that it's got a lot of association, music has a lot of association with medicine and with the human body itself. It's the sounds make a huge difference. If you want to know more about this, go and listen to the Tibetan singing bowls and how they've used sound to heal people and all those. So I know that there's something huge in music which could be tapped into for human development, improvement in terms of health and all those. It's amazing.
Sound healing.
Yeah.
Well, Shashi, as always, I want to say thank you because all our idea is to dig into very complicated topics, but thanks to Dr. Shashi is very able always to make them simple, and our aim is to give you value. So don't miss the chance to leave any comment below if you got any question or any topic that you want us to develop. We're going to be more than happy.
Yeah, just drop it there, and also do not forget to share this in any platform, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok even. Just share it wherever you can so that people can understand more better about how you can make or reduce addiction and actually improve on techniques that can make you stronger and better.
Thank you for your support and thank you, Shashi.
Thank you guys, see you.
Thank you, bye-bye.